What's going on, guys? So this video is going to be a bit different. Instead of doing a driving rant on a topic, I'm going to do a riding rant on a topic, since I know a lot of you know that I enjoy mountain biking. So I think you'll enjoy this video. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Alright, so one of the most common questions that I get asked over email and in the comments field is in regards to somebody who might be looking for a used truck. They provide me the year, make, and model, and generally some additional information, as well as maybe a link to the truck that they're looking at, and they want me to tell them if I think that it's a good purchase. Well, the problem with that is I have absolutely no idea how that vehicle was maintained. I have absolutely no idea what component or components are potentially on the verge of failing. Sometimes mileage is actually less important if the truck has outstanding preventative maintenance records and if parts have been replaced. But there's no way of really knowing unless they can provide you all of that. But then again, you still don't know what parts are on the verge of failing. Even a relatively low mileage vehicle can have a lot of idle hours on it. So there's so many aspects that you have to look at. The main issue is understanding how the truck was used during the miles that were put on it. Now, I've done a few videos on the topic, but there's so many unknowns that can ultimately impact the final vehicle that you're specifically looking at. What I try to do for those folks who ask me this question is provide essentially a list of things that I suggest if you're going to be looking for a used or pre-owned vehicle. Number one, don't be brand biased. Be willing to look and even purchase a brand you originally may have written off. The main reason why is because there are a lot of really well-maintained vehicles out there and a lot of really poorly maintained vehicles. And if you only go for a certain brand, you may find yourself in a situation of getting that particular vehicle that wasn't taken care of, or a specific vehicle that, even though it might have a great reputation, that one just didn't perform very well or had a number of issues, or maybe a lemon. So you definitely want to open yourself up to looking at brands that you might not have originally considered. Number two is to try to look for the newest truck with the lowest miles in the body style configuration you're looking for. What I mean by that is, let's say you're looking at a 2011 through 2016 Super Duty. Well, 2016 is likely to have almost all the bugs worked out. If you're looking at a Ram, you might want to look at the latest version of the specific body style that you're looking at, and same with General Motors or whichever brand. And that's usually because any types of bugs or any types of issues, quirks, things like that have generally been worked out by the last version of that specific generation of vehicle. So I generally recommend looking for the newest version of a generation with the lowest possible miles. Number three is avoid trucks that have been used for fleet service. Generally, those are going to be lower trim work trucks. However, there are a few higher trim vehicles that may have been assigned to supervisors or foremen or business leaders that specifically are going to have a lot of extra wear and tear. Now, you may be able to come across a really good value on a fleet vehicle, and in some cases, fleet vehicles were very well maintained because they had agreements in place with the manufacturer or with whoever they leased them from to have certain preventative maintenance schedules performed at certain times. The main thing you want to look for, though, is understanding how fleet vehicle service and idle time kind of go hand in hand together. Typically, you may be able to find a fleet vehicle with relatively low miles. However, the idle time might be very high. So I'm not saying don't look at fleet vehicles, but just understand what you're potentially getting into if you are looking at a retired fleet vehicle, because they're likely going to have higher miles, higher idle time usage, and the drivers generally don't take quite as good care of them as they would if it was their own vehicle that they were paying for. So that's more of a precautionary note. Number four, always look for abnormal signs of damage or rust that could have occurred to the vehicle. It's always smart to look in areas that might normally be concealed, like under floor mats, behind seats, underneath seats, the hinges, places that could indicate there could have been some type of water or liquid intrusion into the vehicle that caused rust. Those are always bad signs. You also want to look for signs that the vehicle may have been involved in a collision. Look for areas that look like they might be slightly off in terms of fit and finish as well as color match. And some other things to look at are the drive components in the frame. Frame rust, as long as it's not severe or it hasn't eaten through, might not really indicate anything to worry about. Excessive rust in areas is definitely something to worry about. However, some of your drive components axles, control arms, CV joints, things like that tend to rust in terms of surface rust, but nothing that should really be critical unless it looks like the rust is actually eaten through a significant portions of the component itself. Number 5. Now, if you're looking at a pre-owned diesel vehicle, you want to make sure you have all the service records you could possibly have to indicate any type of work that has been done, as well as preventative maintenance, such as oil changes and fuel filters, and if there's anything related to the emission systems that have been damaged, repaired, or replaced. These are all things that can cost you thousands of dollars and possibly leave you stranded if they are on the verge of failure or if they weren't repaired correctly. So always keep an eye on those types of records. And you should also look for those records if it's a gas vehicle as well. It's always important to find out what's been done to the vehicle, what is broken already, and what might be on the verge of breaking. Number 6. I would generally try to avoid diesel engines in vehicles that have had a hard service life. Basically vehicles that have been used for tow trucks, ambulances, service bodies for fleet vehicles such as, cable repair vehicles, plumbing trucks, things like that. Those vehicles have served a very hard life, and generally by the time they're retired, they're usually not in a condition that I would suggest you tow anything heavy with. So those are just things worth considering. And finally, this is going to be my strangest advice of all in this video. Don't be afraid to buy a lower trim new vehicle for roughly the same price as a higher trim used vehicle. This is often really the best option for most, considering that even a low trim truck that's new will come better equipped than a pre-owned vehicle that might cost the same amount but is a higher trim package. So I would definitely open your mind up to possibly saving $20,000 to $30,000 off the price of a truck by getting a lower trim brand new vehicle versus a higher trim pre-owned vehicle that costs roughly the same amount of money and ultimately may have had a sketchy, past life in terms of the folks who drove that truck and how it was treated. So those are always things worth considering. At the end of the day, I can't really suggest a specific vehicle, and I can't specifically tell you that the truck you're looking at or the one you're trying to share with me in an email is going to be a good truck or not. And I'm never really going to, simply because I don't and will never have enough information to give you the type of concise, accurate report on that vehicle that you need to have before making a purchasing decision. Anyways, I sure hope this video has been helpful for those of you who are considering emailing me or looking for a pre-owned vehicle and you want to know my take on it. I just don't have enough information on every vehicle out there to give you the answer you may be looking for, or even to give you a best guess. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we will talk to you again very soon.